In 2013, a mysterious military video went public showing objects moving in impossible ways. Pilots who saw them describe maneuvers modern aircraft can't do. What were those objects? Advanced human prototypes, optical illusions, evidence of UFOs? Over the next hour, we'll examine the footage, the eyewitnesses, and the facts behind Area 51's disappearance stories. Welcome to Decoding History and Science, where we uncover the world's most guarded mysteries with facts, logic, and curiosity. For decades, Area 51 has been a name surrounded by secrecy, a place where truth and conspiracy blurred together. Some call it the heart of America's UFO secrets, while others insist it's just an advanced testing site for military aircraft. But here's the real question. Why does the U.S. government keep denying what everyone already suspects? And why do eyewitnesses, radar data, and official documents still point to something more than human? In this video, we're diving deep into the hidden history, leaked testimonies, and scientific evidence behind Area 51's most mysterious disappearances. Stay with me till the end, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you look at the sky forever. Chapter 1. The desert that doesn't exist, somewhere deep in the Nevada desert, hidden among barren mountains and miles of nothingness, lies a patch of land that officially didn't exist for decades. A place so secret that even its workers weren't allowed to talk about where they went every morning. For the longest time, this base had no name, no listing on any map, and no acknowledgement from the U.S. government. The locals called it Dreamland, but the world would come to know it by another name, Area 51. Back in the 1950s, pilots flying commercial routes between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City began noticing something strange: flashes of silver and movement far below, in what was supposed to be restricted airspace. When they asked air traffic control what it was, the answer was always the same: you didn't see anything. That denial was the beginning of a mystery that would grip the world for more than half a century. Area 51 sits on the edge of what is known as the Nevada Test and Training Range, an enormous stretch of land used by the military during the Cold War. This was where the U.S. tested some of its most dangerous and secret technologies: atomic bombs, high-altitude aircraft, and experimental propulsion systems. Yet even in a place built for secrecy, Area 51 was different. It was hidden behind layers of security, checkpoints, and armed patrols. Those who worked there were flown in from Las Vegas on unmarked planes, a mysterious airline known only by its call sign, Janet. No one outside the fence ever knew what went on inside. And that silence was exactly what fueled the obsession. In the late 1950s, U.S. Air Force began testing a new aircraft at this secret base, the U-2 spy plane, capable of flying higher than any other in history. But here's where the story takes a twist. The plane flew at altitudes so extreme that no commercial or military aircraft had ever reached them before. So when people across Nevada and California saw fast-moving lights high above the sky, lights that made no sound and moved in ways they couldn't explain, they reported them as unidentified flying objects. The military, of course, couldn't admit the U-2 existed. So instead of explanations, people got silence, and silence created rumors. By the 1960s, the phrase Area 51 started surfacing in aviation circles. It was on T printed on any map. It appeared only on top-secret documents and classified test schedules. Some say the number was chosen randomly. Others claim it marked a real section on an old nuclear testing grid. But whatever the reason, the codename stuck and became synonymous with mystery. Soon, locals living near the area began reporting strange sounds. Low rumbles at night, and bright lights that would hover silently over the desert floor before vanishing into the mountains. Some said they saw discs, others saw triangles, but all described one thing: movement beyond human technology. By the 1970s, Area 51 had become more than a military facility. It was now a symbol of secrecy, of hidden power, and of the unknown. Every unanswered question, every denied report, and every unexplained light added another layer to the legend. And while most Americans had never seen it, everyone knew its name. Even now, decades later, satellite images reveal only runways, hangars, and strange geometric patterns on the desert floor. But what's inside those hangars? What's being tested in the night skies over Groom Lake? And why did so many who claim to work there disappear from public view? Was Area 51 really built to hide alien technology? Or was it the perfect cover for something entirely human, but far ahead of its time? In the next chapter, we'll trace the origins of this secret base back to the Cold War and uncover how one of America's darkest eras gave birth to its most mysterious location. Chapter 2. Birth of a secret base in the aftermath of World War II. The world entered a new kind of conflict, one fought not on battlefields, but in laboratories, skies, and secret facilities. This was the dawn of the Cold War, a time when fear, secrecy, and technology shaped the destiny of nations. And out of that paranoia, the United States created something the public was never meant to see, a base so secret that even most military officials didn't know it existed. The story of Area 51 truly begins in 1955. When the Central Intelligence Agency and Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division began developing a revolutionary aircraft. The mission was simple in purpose, but dangerous in execution, to build a spy plane that could fly higher and faster than any enemy missile. This aircraft would become the U-2 reconnaissance plane, and it needed a test site far away from civilization, shielded from Soviet spies and public eyes. So, in the middle of the Nevada desert, surrounded by mountains, dry lakes, and hundreds of miles of nothingness, they found the perfect location, a dried lake bed called Groom Lake. This remote area was accessible only by rough dirt roads, and its vast emptiness made it invisible to the outside world. In April 1955, under the highest classification, construction began. Runways were paved, hangars were built, and temporary housing was set up for engineers and pilots. It was so secretive that most workers didn't even know the real name of the project they were building. To outsiders, this place had no identity. It wasn't listed on any map, didn't appear in government records, and had no official acknowledgement. The people working there were told to refer to it only as the ranch or the site. Even the families of those involved were kept in the dark. They couldn't say where they worked, what they did, or how long they would be gone. Letters were censored, calls were monitored, and silence became a way of life. Every morning, workers would fly out of Las Vegas on small, unmarked planes, their windows covered, their destinations unknown. This mysterious airline, which still operates today under the codename Janet Airlines, became the invisible bridge between the ordinary world and one of the most restricted zones on Earth. Once inside, they entered a place beyond law, beyond politics, and beyond the reach of the public. A place where innovation met secrecy and where truth became optional. At first, the mission was purely technological. The U-2 was tested, refined, and improved. It flew at altitudes above 70,000 feet, far beyond radar detection. But with each test flight came reports of strange lights streaking across the night sky. Commercial pilots began logging sightings of unidentified objects that seemed to defy the known limits of aviation. They weren't wrong. They were witnessing a machine years ahead of its time. But since the project was classified, no one could explain what these objects were. That silence was the beginning of something the government didn't expect: the birth of modern UFO mythology. By the early 1960s, the U-2 project evolved into something even more ambitious: the A-12 Oxcart, a jet capable of speeds over 3 times the speed of sound. It was so fast that its friction with the air could heat its titanium surface to over 500 degrees Fahrenheit. This wasn't science fiction. It was engineering genius hidden from the public. But again, those who saw its test flights described movements no known plane could perform. To the human eye, it looked alien. And the more the government denied it, the more the rumors grew. In 1962, the secrecy deepened. Security was tightened, fences extended, and the airspace above Groom Lake was officially restricted permanently. No civilian was allowed to fly near it, and even military pilots who strayed too close were ordered to leave immediately. The workers who spoke about their jobs risked losing everything, sometimes even facing quiet disappearances from their records and communities. This wasn't just a job site anymore. It had become a classified world within a country, a black hole of information where truth went in but never came out. Behind closed doors, engineers were pushing the limits of science, testing radar-absorbing materials, developing stealth coatings, and experimenting with propulsion systems that remain advanced even by today's standards. To outsiders, these secret tests looked like spacecraft. To insiders, they were simply progress. But the line between the two began to blur, and that blur became the core of the mystery we still chase today. The secrecy was so intense that when the U.S. government was sued in the 1990s by workers claiming chemical exposure from the base, the president himself issued an order to exempt Area 51 from environmental laws. That decision, made decades after the base's birth, was the first official acknowledgement that the place even existed. Think about that. A facility older than most modern tech companies remained unconfirmed for over 40 years. The reason, they said, was national security. But to many, it was confirmation that something much bigger was being hidden, something the world wasn't ready to see. And that brings us to the biggest question. Was Area 51 created simply to test planes? Or was that just a cover story, a convenient distraction from something far more extraordinary? Because as the Cold War raged on, strange lights continued to appear, stories began to leak, and one man's explosive claim would soon turn Area 51 from a classified base into a global mystery. That story begins in the next chapter, when the skies start whispering. Chapter 3. The skies start whispering by the late 1950s. Something strange was happening across America's western skies. Pilots, farmers, truck drivers, and even entire families began reporting the same eerie phenomenon: bright objects gliding silently through the night, sometimes changing direction in ways no known aircraft could. These sightings seemed to cluster around one particular region, the desolate airspace above southern Nevada. That region, unknown to most, hid the top-secret base we now call Area 51. At first, these reports were laughed off or dismissed as weather balloons, planets, or optical illusions. But there were too many and too consistent to ignore. Between 1955 and 1969, over 12,000 UFO reports were logged by a U.S. Air Force program called Project Blue Book, and a significant number of them came from areas near Groom Lake. Each new sighting fueled the rumors that something otherworldly was happening in the desert. What no one knew was that almost every major test flight of the U-2 spy plane, or the later, a 12-ox cart, corresponded with a wave of UFO reports. The planes flew higher than anything before, up to 70,000 feet at a time when most commercial aircraft flew below 20,000. When sunlight hit the metallic body of the U-2 during dawn or dusk, it appeared as a glowing object streaking silently across the sky. To ordinary citizens, it looked like alien technology. To the government, it was a perfect misunderstanding, one that conveniently kept the real secret hidden. Yet the whispers didn't stop. As the Cold War intensified, new prototypes appeared, each one stranger than the last. There were delta-wing shapes, sharp black triangles, and craft that could accelerate at terrifying speeds. The skies over Nevada became a silent testing ground for the future of warfare and for the myths of extraterrestrial life. But secrecy breeds curiosity, and curiosity breeds fear. Every denial, every no comment, made the public wonder what was really going on. Even Air Force pilots, trained to recognize every aircraft in existence, began submitting reports describing objects that outperformed their own jets, objects that could stop mid-air and then vanish in a blink. How do you dismiss that? In 1966, a commercial pilot flying from Los Angeles to Denver reported a glowing disk hovering at 30,000 feet before shooting vertically out of sight. At the same time, radar stations picked up unidentified blips, and yet the official statement said nothing unusual was detected. That kind of contradiction only made people believe more. The tension reached new heights in the early 1980s, when stealth technology became the next frontier. The testing of aircraft like the F-117 Nighthawk and later the B-2 Spirit took place primarily in the airspace surrounding Area 51. These aircraft were almost invisible to radar and made very little sound, their angular shapes reflecting light in unpredictable ways. So when a glowing triangular object appeared in the night sky, it wasn't necessarily alien. It was cutting-edge human innovation hidden behind the curtain of secrecy. But to the people who saw it, it was something beyond explanation. Reports poured in describing silent black triangles, hovering disks, and cigar-shaped craft moving faster than sound without breaking it. Many of these eyewitnesses had no reason to lie. Airline pilots, police officers, even military personnel off duty. They all described the same impossible movements, the same eerie lights, and the same area of the sky. The whispers grew louder. And then came the media. Tabloids and television networks began connecting dots that weren't supposed to be connected. Area 51. Nuclear testing, crashed objects, and even alien autopsies. The idea of a government cover-up became entertainment, and for the first time, UFOs entered mainstream culture. By the 1980s, Area 51 wasn't just a secret base anymore. It was a legend. A place where truth, myth, and speculation mixed into something unstoppable. But what truly fanned the flames wasn't the media or the sightings. It was the silence from those who knew the truth. Every time officials denied a claim, another witness stepped forward. Every time a rumor faded, a new story appeared. And among all those whispers, one voice would soon emerge that changed everything. A man who claimed to have worked inside Area 51, who said he had seen things the world was never meant to see. He wasn't just another witness or conspiracy theorist. He was someone with names, details, and knowledge that matched classified operations. When he spoke, the world listened, and nothing about Area 51 was ever the same again. Because in the next chapter, we meet the man who turned rumor into revolution, Bob Lazar. The whistleblower who claimed the U.S. government was hiding not just technology, but evidence of life beyond Earth. Chapter 4. Leaks, whistleblowers, and cover-ups. By the late 1980s, the mystery of Area 51 had grown too large to ignore. For over 30 years, the government had remained silent, denying everything, even as strange lights danced above Nevada skies and countless witnesses described impossible aircraft. But then, almost overnight, that silence cracked. In 1989, a man appeared on television, his face hidden, his voice distorted, claiming to have worked at a secret facility connected to Area 51. He said he had seen things so advanced, so unbelievable that they could not have come from this earth. A few days later, he revealed his name to the world, Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar introduced himself as a physicist who had been hired to work on reverse engineering alien technology at a site called S4, located near Area 51. According to him, the facility housed several disc-shaped craft of unknown origin, one of which, he claimed, was fully functional. His job, he said, was to study the propulsion system, a reactor powered by an element unknown to modern science. Later referred to as Element 115, he described how the craft generated its own gravitational field, bending space-time itself to move effortlessly through the air. To the public, it sounded like science fiction. But to those who had followed the Area 51 mystery for years, it felt like confirmation. Lazar claimed the government had been in possession of extraterrestrial technology for decades, and that teams of scientists were working in extreme secrecy to unlock its secrets. He even described how security was so tight that workers were allowed to see only the specific part of the project they were assigned to, never the full picture. He painted a world of compartmentalization, hidden science, and fear, where truth was fragmented and silence was survival. When he went public, everything changed. Area 51, once a whisper, became a global obsession. News networks replayed his interviews, radio shows analyzed every word, and conspiracy communities erupted overnight. The idea that the U.S. government might be hiding alien technology beneath the desert didn't sound like fantasy anymore. It sounded like a possibility. But soon after, Lazar's credibility came under attack. Government agencies denied his employment, claiming there were no records of him ever working at Area 51 or any related facility. His academic background was questioned. Universities he said he attended claimed to have no record of his enrollment. It was as if his entire history had been erased. Supporters believed that was part of the cover-up. Skeptics said it was proof he was lying. Yet one fact couldn't be ignored: Lazar's detailed description of the base layout, security measures, and even the flight schedules of test crafts matched what other independent witnesses later confirmed. And several people from the area came forward saying they had been with Lazar at nights when he predicted exactly when and where test flights would occur, and strange glowing objects did appear in the sky exactly as he said they would. Still, the government refused to comment. No confirmation, no denial, just silence. That silence only made the mystery grow deeper. But Bob Lazar wasn't the only one who spoke out. Over the years, other individuals claiming to be former employees of Area 51 came forward with their own stories of underground tunnels, alien materials, and black-budget experiments. Most were quickly dismissed, but a few offered technical details too specific to ignore. Patterns began to emerge: the mention of reverse-engineered propulsion, anti-gravity research, and biological specimens that defied explanation. As these stories spread, something even more curious happened. Government officials began quietly acknowledging the existence of test ranges and classified flight programs in Nevada, but always without using the name Area 51. It was a game of words, confirmed just enough to calm suspicion, but never enough to reveal the truth. Each half's answer only made people ask more questions. Then came the disappearances, not of UFOs, but of information. Maps that once showed small airfields near Groom Lake were suddenly updated with blank spaces. Satellite images blurred out entire sections of land, and reports or documents that mentioned Area 51 vanished from archives, replaced by redacted pages marked Top Secret. To many, it felt like proof of a deliberate effort to erase a secret too big to reveal. Meanwhile, those who tried to expose what they knew faced intimidation, harassment, and sometimes much worse. Journalists who pursued leads reported being followed or threatened. Witnesses who spoke out were discredited, disbarred, or mysteriously silenced. To the public, it looked like damage control. To others, it looked like something far darker. The Bob Lazar story remains one of the most controversial claims in UFO history. To this day, people are divided. Was he a whistleblower revealing the truth? or a storyteller planted to distract the public from real government projects. Whichever you believe, one thing is certain: his story changed everything. Because after Lazar, Area 51 was no longer a cold war relic. It was the center of a global conversation about what might be hidden beyond the reach of human knowledge. And the most unsettling part: even after all these decades, not a single official source has ever provided a clear answer. No documents, no public statements, no evidence, just denial and mystery. It's as if the truth itself was locked behind that fence, guarded not by soldiers, but by silence. But if Bob Lazar's story was shocking, what came next pushed the mystery even further. Because as the rumors spread, satellite photos began to reveal new runways, new hangars, and structures no one could explain, suggesting that something far bigger was still happening behind those fences. In the next chapter, we step inside the restricted zone to uncover what the world's most secret base is really hiding. Chapter 5. Inside the restricted zone for decades. People could only imagine what lay beyond the endless fences of Area 51. Satellite photos showed little more than a dry lake bed, a few hangars and long airstrips cutting through the sand. But the real secrets were hidden underground and inside those anonymous buildings where no outsider had ever set foot. Every worker who entered signed lifetime confidentiality agreements. Their movements were tracked, their conversations recorded, and their families knew better than to ask questions. To them, the world beyond the gates simply stopped existing. Inside, everything was compartmentalized. Each person knew only a fraction of the whole, just enough to do their part. Never enough to understand what the project truly was. The technology being tested there didn't resemble ordinary aircraft. Witnesses spoke of objects shaped like flattened diamonds, black triangles, or sleek cylinders that seemed to glide without sound. Some engineers later confirmed that the base had become the testing ground for the nation's most advanced stealth programs, machines that bent radar waves, absorbed heat, and moved in ways no traditional jet could. But other reports suggested experiments that defied even that logic. Propulsion systems with no visible exhaust, craft that hovered silently, devices that generated localized magnetic fields. Were these radical new technologies born of human genius, or something reverse-engineered from an origin the public could never accept? Among insiders, there were rumors of tunnels running for miles beneath the desert, connecting laboratories, hangars, and data centers. They said entire aircraft could be lowered underground, disassembled, and studied without ever being seen by satellites. When employees left, they were searched, scanned, and escorted back to the waiting Janet planes that carried them to Las Vegas each night. Some never returned. Their names quietly vanished from rosters. Their projects reassigned to classified. Declassified budget documents from later decades revealed enormous sums funneled into black programs. Funds so secret even Congress could not trace where they went. Some of those projects matched the timeline of mysterious construction visible in satellite imagery. New runways appearing overnight. Hangars doubling in size, entire mountain slopes carved open and then sealed again. No explanation was ever offered. Those who study military history argue that Area 51's isolation allowed engineers to experiment freely, without fear of public failure or espionage. It was here that the U-2, A-12, and F-117 were perfected decades ahead of its time. To them, the so-called UFO sightings were simply the price of innovation. Civilians witnessing glimpses of tomorrow. Machines long before the world was ready to see them. But skeptics of the official narrative ask a harder question. Why? Even today, does the government refuse to release basic information about operations that are now obsolete? If it was all conventional technology, why does the secrecy continue? Whichever side you believe, one fact remains. Area 51 is not a relic of the past. It is still expanding, still active, still drawing restricted airspace larger than some American states. Satellite images show new fuel tanks, new communication towers, and runways long enough for vehicles that may not even resemble planes. And while the rest of the world debates aliens, those inside the program move forward quietly, protected by a wall of silence that is held for 70 years. Every fence, every sensor, every patrol exists to keep the outside world guessing. And that guessing between human and non-human, fact and fiction's exactly what keeps Area 51 alive in the public imagination. Because a mystery half solved never dies. It only deepens. If this is what happens inside the restricted zone, what about the craft scene above it? In the next chapter, we explore the question that still divides scientists and believers alike. These UFOs truly alien visitors, or the most advanced creations humanity has ever hidden? Chapter 6: UFOs or Experimental Aircraft. For decades, strange lights and unexplained craft have been spotted in the skies above Nevada. They move faster than anything we officially know, stop mid-air without sound, and vanish as if the laws of physics don't apply. To the locals, these weren't planes or drones. They were something else. Something beyond human understanding. But could there be a more grounded explanation? Many experts believe that the so-called UFO sightings near Area 51 weren't alien at all. They were human technology decades ahead of its time. During the Cold War, the United States was locked in an invisible race against the Soviet Union. Every advantage mattered. Radar, speed, stealth, surveillance. Area 51 became the perfect stage to test experimental aircraft machines so advanced that even trained pilots mistook them for otherworldly objects. Take the U-2 spy plane, for example. In the 1950s, it could fly higher than any other aircraft above 70,000 feet, where commercial pilots had never gone. When civilians saw a bright silver glint moving impossibly high in the sky, they assumed it wasn't from Earth. The government couldn't explain it without revealing its top-secret project, so they stayed silent. That silence became the spark that ignited the UFO myth. Then came the A-12 Oxcart, and later the SR-71 Blackbird Graft, capable of speeds exceeding Mach 3. Leaving no visible exhaust and glowing orange from friction at the edges of space. To someone watching from the desert, these jets looked like fiery disks streaking across the night sky. Again, no one in authority could tell the truth. The perfect storm of secrecy and spectacle created the foundation for modern UFO culture. Yet even with these explanations, not every sighting fits neatly into the box of experimental technology. Radar operators have tracked objects that accelerated from 0 to thousands of miles per hour in an instant. Pilots trained observers with thousands of flight hours have reported craft without wings, engines, or heat signatures. And official investigations like Project Blue Book and the more recent Pentagon UAP Task Force admit that a small percentage of cases remain truly unexplained. So what are we really seeing? Are these the latest generation of human-made craft unmanned vehicles driven by AI and experimental propulsion? Or are we witnessing something that doesn't belong to this planet at all? Even scientists are divided. Some physicists argue that interstellar travel is nearly impossible with our current understanding of physics. But others believe that if advanced civilizations exist, the universe is as vast as it seems, then surely we can be alone. And if we're not alone, maybe Area 51 is where those two worlds quietly meet. Over the years, leaked documents, supposed whistleblowers, and declassified files have only deepened the mystery. The CIA itself confirmed Area 51's existence in 2013, but offered only vague explanations, avoiding the very topic that made it famous: UFOs. That strategic silence left more questions than answers. Because sometimes the absence of denial is as powerful as an admission. Still, the debate continues between believers and skeptics. For every claim of alien craft, there's a counterclaim of human innovation. But one thing both sides agree on: Area 51 has been the birthplace of technology that defies imagination. Whether it came from another world or from the brilliance of our own engineers, it has shaped how we look at the skies and how we define what's possible. If Area 51's flying objects might be human, then who are the people behind them? In the next chapter, we'll step closer to the secret minds, the engineers, scientists, and pilots who built the impossible and lived their entire lives in silence. Chapter 7. The Secret Scientists of Area 51 Behind Every Mystery. There are people, real people, whose names history has nearly erased. They were not movie heroes or conspiracy theorists. They were scientists, engineers, and pilots, handpicked from the brightest minds in America, sworn to absolute secrecy, and buried in projects so classified that even their families didn't know where they worked. Each morning, unmarked buses carried them to a remote terminal at McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. From there, they boarded small white jets with a red stripe, the infamous Janet flights. No flight number, no passenger list, no destination. But everyone in the know understood where those planes were going: the most secret airbase on Earth. Once they landed on the barren desert runway of Area 51, they stepped into a different world. A world without clocks, without outside contact, without even the concept of a weekend. Inside, the environment was electric with ambition and fear. They were told they were protecting national security, pushing the limits of science, and keeping America one step ahead in a shadow war that few civilians even knew existed. But with that purpose came a price. Many of these experts were forbidden from discussing their work for life. Some lived and died without ever telling their spouses or children what they had built. Letters were censored, phone calls monitored, and every movement was watched by security officers trained to detect even the slightest breach of loyalty. The scientists knew too much, and that knowledge was both an honor and a burden. Whispers from former employees, those few who dared to speak decades later, paint a haunting picture. They describe working on projects that felt impossible, materials lighter than air but stronger than steel, propulsion systems that operated without fuel, and instruments that responded to thought and brainwave activity. To the outside world, these sound like science fiction. But inside Area 51, fiction was just another word for not yet possible. Some scientists hinted that they were studying technology not made here. One alleged that fragments of unidentified alloys materials that resisted every known method of analysis were stored in underground vaults. Another described being shown an object the size of a car engine with no wires or moving parts, yet capable of producing immense energy. Were these misunderstood experimental prototypes? Or could they have been remnants of something not entirely human? No one could say for sure, because no one person ever saw the full picture. Every department was compartmentalized under strict neutrino protocols. Engineers working on propulsion never met those working on navigation. Physicists studying materials didn't know what the pilots were testing. Each puzzle piece was kept separate, ensuring that even those inside the program could never see the full image of what they were building. It was secrecy layered upon secrecy, like a maze designed not to keep people out, but to keep knowledge in. One of the most chilling aspects came from the test pilots, the ghost flyers. These men risked their lives flying machines no one had ever flown before. They took off at midnight, without lights, without identification, in aircraft that could reach the edge of space. If something went wrong, and often it did, there would be no public record, no funeral, no explanation. Just another nameless burial in the Nevada sand. Families were told their loved ones died in training accidents. The truth was never revealed. A few declassified documents later confirmed what many suspected. The government had compensated families of test pilots under fake names. Entire deaths were wiped from official records. For the sake of secrecy, even sacrifice became invisible. And yet, despite this silence, some insiders eventually broke their oaths, not out of defiance, but out of conscience. They felt the public deserved to know the scope of what had been achieved in the desert. One engineer reportedly said, "We were touching technologies that felt like magic." If they were human inventions, then humanity is far more advanced than anyone realizes. If they weren't, then someone else has been here before us. That single statement encapsulates the entire mystery of Area 51. Because whether the origin was earthly or extraterrestrial, the scientists inside that base were clearly building something that defied our understanding of physics. Something that blurred the line between science and science fiction. And perhaps the greatest irony of all, those who devoted their lives to secrets that would never be shared are the same people who might have quietly rewritten the future of human civilization. We just don't know it yet. If these scientists were working with materials and ideas not from this earth, where did those materials come from? In the next chapter, we dive into one of the most controversial claims ever made about 6T1, the alleged crash and recovery of alien technology that started it all. Chapter 8. The Roswell Connection and Alien Technology. Every mystery has an origin point, and for Area 51, that origin lies nearly a decade earlier and 200 miles away in a small desert town called Roswell, New Mexico. The year was 1947. A thunderstorm raged across the desert when something extraordinary fell from the sky. At first, it was reported as nothing less than a flying disc. The local Air Force base even released a statement confirming it. But within 24 hours, the story changed officially. It was just a weather balloon. That single reversal planted the seed of doubt that would grow into one of the greatest conspiracies of modern history. Because the wreckage described by locals didn't sound like any weather balloon. Farmers and military personnel reported strange metallic debris, impossibly light, resistant to heat, unbendable by hand, yet returning to its shape when crushed. Symbols, almost hieroglyphic, were said to be etched into some of the pieces. Witnesses were quickly silenced, debris confiscated, and the entire area sealed off. Something had fallen, and the U.S. government didn't want the world to know what it was. Years later, whispers began to connect that mysterious crash to a new, secret facility being developed in the Nevada desert, a place where that recovered material might have been taken for study. That place would become known as Area 51. By the early 1950s, America was in the middle of an arms and intelligence race with the Soviet Union. If a craft of unknown origin had truly fallen to Earth, it could represent not just scientific curiosity, but the ultimate strategic advantage. Imagine the pressure. What if the key to unmatched power, advanced propulsion, or even limitless energy was locked inside that wreckage? The government would have done anything to understand it. Quietly. Several alleged insiders have since claimed that materials from Roswell and possibly other similar incidents were transported under extreme secrecy to military bases, then eventually consolidated at Area 51. Among those who broke silence was Bob Lazar, a physicist who, in 1989, publicly claimed to have worked at a facility near Area 51 known as S4. According to Lazar, he had been assigned to study the propulsion systems of recovered alien craft. He described engines powered by a mysterious element, something not found on Earth, capable of generating gravitational waves to bend space and time. At the time, his claims were dismissed as fantasy. But decades later, an element matching his description, element 115, was officially synthesized by scientists. It was in T stable enough to power spacecraft, at least not yet, but the coincidence was unsettling. Lazar's story reignited global fascination with Area 51. He spoke of 9 craft allegedly stored underground, each with different designs and unknown origins. He said he'd witnessed one come to life, hovering silently, pulsing with a faint bluish glow, completely defying gravity. Whether true or not, his account matched decades of rumors from military sources who had described objects in testing that behaved unlike any aircraft known to mankind. Skeptics argue that these tales are exaggerations or misinterpretations of classified aerospace projects, like the testing of early anti-gravity experiments or exotic propulsion concepts that never reached the public eye. And yet, The secrecy surrounding Area 51 only fuels belief that something extraordinary really did happen. That, maybe, just maybe, the United States did recover non-human technology and has spent decades trying to understand it. Consider this. After Roswell, the pace of human technological advancement skyrocketed. Within just 30 years, humanity went from primitive computers and propeller planes to landing on the moon, creating stealth technology and splitting the atom. Could that all be coincidence? Maybe. Or perhaps the seeds of that progress were planted in the sand of New Mexico and nurtured in the hidden labs of Nevada. Officially, the government maintains that nothing extraterrestrial was ever recovered. They insist Roswell was simply a part of Project Mogul, a classified balloon designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. And yet, that explanation arrived decades after the event, long after eyewitnesses had described materials unlike any known to science. Why such a delay? Why such secrecy? If it was only a balloon, why the decades of silence and denial? Even now, the military statement leaves gaps wide enough to drive a flying saucer through. Because whether it was alien or human, something happened in Roswell that forever changed how America viewed the sky, and how the government treated what it didn't understand. And if even a fraction of those rumors are true, then Area 51 isn't just a testing ground. It's a vault, a time capsule of knowledge that could redefine everything we know about physics, technology, and life beyond our world. If alien technology truly made its way into Area 51, what exactly were they trying to learn from it? In the next chapter, we'll explore the alleged reverse engineering projects, the experiments that might have bridged the gap between alien science and human innovation. Chapter 9: Reverse Engineering the Unknown. Something truly non-human was recovered from Roswell or from anywhere else, then one question remains: what did they do with it? According to countless rumors, declassified hints, and testimonies from alleged insiders, the answer lies at the very heart of Area 51's purpose: reverse engineering. To reverse engineer something means to take it apart piece by piece and learn how it works without ever having the original blueprints. Now imagine doing that with a machine not of this earth. No known materials, no familiar components, no clear source of power. You're not just taking apart technology. You're taking apart an idea from a civilization millions of years ahead of you. Scientists who reportedly worked on such programs described it as like trying to decode the language of the gods. Every fragment, every alloy, every geometric structure had properties that defied conventional science. Some pieces could withstand temperatures hotter than a rocket engine without melting. Others bent light in ways that made them nearly invisible to the naked eye. One engineer allegedly said, "It was like holding something alive. It reacted to us." Double quotes rumors claim that these materials were stored in underground vaults beneath the Groom Lake facility, kept in pressurized, magnetically shielded chambers. Only the most trusted and compartmentalized scientists were allowed access, and each was given only fragments of the full puzzle. Their job was not to build a UFO, but to understand how it might work. And from those small breakthroughs, humanity's own technological revolution may have begun. Look at the timeline. Before the 1950s, we had vacuum tubes and propeller engines. By the 1960s, we had transistors, fiber optics, night vision, and integrated circuits all appearing within a single generation. To believers, that sudden leap wasn't coincidence, it was consequence. They argued that the United States, through Area 51, successfully extracted usable knowledge from non-human technology. Even the legendary stealth coating that made aircraft invisible to radar is said by some to have roots in materials studied from crashed objects. Then there's propulsion, the real mystery. Bob Lazar and other insiders claimed the craft used a power source beyond nuclear, beyond chemicals, something that could manipulate gravity itself. Instead of pushing air backward like a jet, it pulled space-time forward. Imagine bending the space around you instead of moving through it. If true, it would explain how UFOs seem to move without inertia, sound, or visible exhaust. It would also mean the greatest discovery in human history: control over gravity. Skeptics argue this is pure science fiction. They say the leap from current technology to gravity manipulation is far too vast. But what if, for decades, those experiments have continued quietly under the radar? What if what we call unidentified aerial phenomena today are simply the latest generations of these secret projects machines built from hybrid knowledge, blending human innovation with something else? There are whispers of specific projects: Project Aurora, Black Light, and Project Zodiac, each allegedly working on exotic propulsion systems using unknown principles. While none have ever been confirmed, the evidence of rapid technological evolution in secret defense programs can't be ignored. We've gone from primitive stealth planes to hypersonic drones and directed energy weapons in less than half a century. If this progress was achieved openly, imagine what's hidden in the black vaults of the Nevada desert. But here's the darker side. According to those who've spoken out, many of these experiments came with a cost. Human exposure to radiation, energy fields, and unknown materials led to illnesses and unexplained deaths. Entire test crews were said to have disappeared from records. When insiders questioned the ethical boundaries of such work, they were threatened or removed. It was knowledge at any price. To this day, no official acknowledgement exists of any reverse engineering program. Yet, fragments of truth leak through cracks in the wall. In 2017, the Pentagon publicly confirmed that it had funded the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, a real government project investigating UFOs and their potential technologies. It was the first time the U.S. government had admitted such interest in decades. To many, that wasn't the beginning of research, but the first glimpse of what had been going on for 70 years. So, if Area 51 really was the birthplace of reverse engineering efforts, the implications are staggering. It means humanity may already hold the keys to technologies capable of reshaping our civilization: clean energy, anti-gravity, and materials beyond imagination. But those keys remain locked behind barbed wire, hidden under layers of secrecy, and guarded by men who answer only to shadows. Because knowledge like that doesn't just rewrite science, it rewrites power. And in the world we live in, power is the one thing no government will ever share willingly. If the technology was truly reverse engineered, where did it lead? In the next chapter, we'll uncover how the legacy of Area 51 may still be shaping the future of military and space technology today, and why the truth might finally be closer than ever to coming out. Chapter 10: The Legacy of Area 51 and the Future of Disclosure. More than 70 years have passed since that first unidentified object supposedly fell from the skies over Roswell. And yet, the shadow of Area 51 still stretches across our imagination like the desert sun at dusk, long, mysterious, and impossible to ignore. What began as a remote testing site for Cold War aircraft has become a symbol of everything the government doesn't want you to know. But as time moves forward, the walls of secrecy that once seemed impenetrable are beginning to show cracks. In recent years, a wave of new revelations has reignited global curiosity. In 2017, the New York Times published a bombshell report confirming the existence of a secret Pentagon program investigating unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, the modern term for UFOs. For decades, such claims were dismissed as fantasy. Now, they were official. The U.S. government had quietly spent millions studying aerial objects that defied explanation, objects captured on radar, witnessed by Navy pilots, and recorded in declassified videos that left even seasoned experts speechless. Suddenly, the conversation shifted from "Are UFOs real?" to "What are they?" And more importantly, who controls them? Some experts believe these are the fruits of black-budget technology, cutting-edge military projects born from decades of experimentation at places like Area 51. To them, the flying objects seen off the coasts of America aren't visitors from another planet. They read prototypes of human-made craft using propulsion breakthroughs the public isn't ready to see yet. Others disagree. They argue that these craft behave in ways that even the most advanced human technology cannot replicate, moving from hypersonic speeds to a full stop in an instant, showing no heat trail, no sonic boom, and no visible form of propulsion. That's not just secret engineering. That's physics rewritten. So, where does that leave us? Caught between two possibilities, both equally mind-bending. Either humanity has quietly mastered technology that can reshape the future, or we are being visited, observed, and studied by something not from this earth, and yet in a strange way. Both possibilities lead back to the same place, Area 51, because whether it's human innovation or extraterrestrial contact, that lonely stretch of Nevada desert has always been the meeting point between the known and the unknown, the place where secrecy becomes science and science becomes legend. But something has changed. The public is no longer satisfied with silence. In 2019, over 1 million people joined an online movement titled Storm Area 51. They can stop us all. It started as a joke, but it sent a powerful message. The world wants answers. Even governments, once united in denial, are now beginning to open their files. The U.S. Congress has held multiple hearings on UFOs real, official sessions discussing evidence once laughed off as fantasy. High-ranking officials have gone on record stating that some phenomena remain unexplained. And perhaps for the first time in modern history, The idea that we not alone isn't seen as absurd, it's seen as possible. As for Area 51, it remains active, still growing, still testing, still hidden behind razor wire and restricted skies. But maybe its purpose has evolved. Maybe it's no longer just about defense or secrecy. Maybe it's about something bigger, preparing humanity for a truth that can no longer be contained. If that truth ever comes out, it could change everything. Our understanding of science, religion, and even our place in the universe. Because if we've truly touched technology not of this earth, then we are no longer just observers of the cosmos. We are participants in it. And the story of Area 51 is only the first chapter of something far greater, a story still unfolding, still hidden, and still waiting for the moment when the world is ready to listen. If this exploration of Area 51 and the UFO mystery fascinated you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Decoding History and Science. Your support helps us uncover more hidden stories that challenge what we think we know about our past, our technology, and the world beyond our skies. Stay curious, stay questioning, because sometimes the greatest discoveries are the ones still locked behind closed doors.